Right, let's talk about billionaires. When you think of a billionaire, you probably picture someone like Elon Musk tweeting about Dogecoin from a rocket ship, or maybe Jeff Bezos. These are the front-of-house billionaires. They are, for better or worse, visible. But here's the thing, for every billionaire basking in the limelight, there are others who operate with all the public visibility of a ninja in a coal mine during a power outage. They are the quiet ones. And frankly, those are the ones you should be worried about. These shadowy figures aren't just shy, they're strategically invisible. They have all the money and power of their more flamboyant counterparts, but they've figured out something crucial. Public attention is a liability. Scrutiny, questions, expectations. So, they've mastered the art of wielding immense influence from the deep, comfortable shadows. Think of them not as the lead actors, but as the producers. The ones who funded the whole production, chose the director, and have final say on the script. So, how exactly does a person with a bank account larger than the GDP of a small island nation manage to stay out of the spotlight? Simple. They use a complex and deliberately confusing system of financial nesting dolls. It's a shell game played with LLCs, 501c4 organizations, donor-advised funds, terms so mind-numbingly boring they're practically a cloaking device. If you tried to explain this system at a dinner party, your guests would fall asleep in their soup. And that is precisely the point. The complexity isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's designed to be so opaque that journalists, regulators, and the public give up, and go watch a video of a cat playing a tiny piano instead. Let's start with the star of our show, the Dark Money Group. These are typically non-profits like 501c4s, which can engage in political activity but, and this is the juicy bit, do not have to disclose their donors. A billionaire can pour millions into one of these groups, which then runs a barrage of attack ads against a candidate. When you see that ad, it will say it's paid for by a wholesome-sounding group like Americans for a Brighter Tomorrow and also puppies. It will not say, paid for by Harold McBillionaire. For an extra layer of anonymity, there are donor-advised funds, or DAFs. Think of a DAF as a sort of charitable bank account. A billionaire puts a massive sum into their DAF, gets an immediate tax write-off, and then advises the fund where to send money, often through 501c4s into super PACs, leaving origins murky. Now let's be clear about what all this shadowy money is actually for. It's not just about getting one person elected over another, although that's part of it. No, the real prize, it's about buying policy. It's about shaping the very laws and regulations that govern our society. Think of political donations not as friendly support, but as a long-term investment with an expected return. And the return is a government that works for them first and foremost. This isn't about patriotism or civic duty, it's about getting a fantastic return on investment, and the product being sold is favorable legislation. The process often starts long before a bill is even written. These billionaires fund a constellation of think tanks and advocacy groups that exist to generate research and expert testimony that just so happens to support policies benefiting the ultra-wealthy. Need a study that shows cutting taxes on the rich creates jobs? There's a think tank for that. They are creating the intellectual ammunition that politicians can use to justify passing laws that serve donors. It's like paying someone to write your term paper. Once the groundwork is laid, the money funds lobbying efforts on an industrial scale. We're not talking about a nice man having coffee, we're talking armies descending on Capitol Hill. Armed with talking points, campaign promises, and the threat of primary funding, your one vote is competing with a fire hose of cash 24/7. To understand how this works in practice, you don't need a tinfoil hat. Just look at a few, very real examples. Let's start with the Koch brothers, Charles and David. For decades, they were heavyweight champions of quiet political influence. They built a sprawling network of non-profits, foundations, political groups, a network affectionately nicknamed the Kochtopus. This network poured hundreds of millions into promoting a fiercely libertarian, anti-regulation, low-tax agenda. They didn't just donate to candidates, they built an entire parallel political infrastructure. Groups like Americans for Prosperity operate in dozens of states. Then the Mercers, Robert and Rebecca. Known for targeted, high-impact investments in data and media, they funded Cambridge Analytica and data-driven voter targeting. This wasn't just ads, it was bespoke messages aimed at individuals. They invested in media like Breitbart to build a platform for populist narratives, and helped create information ecosystems where certain narratives could flourish. The Kochs and Mercers are not anomalies, they are case studies. They show how personal wealth converts to political power, far from prying eyes. You don't need to be president to run the country. Sometimes you just need to be the person who funds the president's favorite news channel. That influence resonates across media, law, and public opinion. One of the most insidious aspects is how it shapes not just laws but our very perception of reality. The goal isn't just to win a vote, it's to win the battle for hearts and minds before the vote even happens. Achieved through a slow, well-funded campaign to control the narrative. Making radical ideas seem mainstream. Making common-sense solutions seem dangerous, making billionaire interests sound like everyone's interests. A process of manufacturing consent. Heritage Foundation, Cato Institute, American Enterprise Institute. They sound neutral and academic but are ideological warriors, injecting donors' worldview into debate. Over time, talking points get repeated until they sound like conventional wisdom, even if evidence contradicts them. This strategy extends to direct media influence. Beyond ownership, billionaires can orchestrate ad boycotts and fund watchdogs to harass journalists. They can make stories expensive for outlets, or fund harassment campaigns to chill reporting. Most effectively, they build their own media ecosystems, sites, YouTube channels, podcasts, that look independent but promote specific agendas. The result? A polluted information environment. When a myth like tax cuts pay for themselves is repeated, it becomes plausible, even if the evidence says otherwise. So, if there's a secret class of billionaires pulling strings, why isn't everyone marching in the streets with pitchforks? Why does it all feel so normal? The influence is designed to be gradual, diffuse, and boring. It operates in campaign finance law, regulatory rulemaking, and tax policy, topics that lull people to sleep. Those subjects don't make splashy headlines. Their dullness is a form of camouflage. Scale and complexity hide the system. A DAF or an LLC is hard to get angry about. It's much easier to be outraged by a politician's stupid tweet or a celebrity scandal. The media thrives on conflict and personality, so they focus on the puppet show, not the theater owner. The political horse race is just a better story. Campaign finance intricacies are boring, disclosure laws gather dust. There's a psychological resignation. People feel powerless, it can feel overwhelming. Easier to accept the way things are. That resignation is actively encouraged. The message: the system is too big to change. A population that believes it is powerless is a population that will not resist. This cultivated apathy is their most potent weapon. Hidden influence stays hidden in plain sight, disguised as the boring background noise of politics. Right, so after all that, you might feel like gravity is optional for anyone with 8-figure bank accounts. It's a bleak picture. The honest answer is, it's not simple. There is no magical silver bullet. Not unless one of those quiet billionaires is a benevolent wizard. First, drag all of this out of the shadows and into daylight. We need sunlight on these dealings. We need to talk about it. We need journalists willing to dive into shell corporations and campaign finance reports and translate findings into stories people understand. Make those stories viral. Stop focusing only on politicians. Start asking, who funds them? Demand that outlets ask who pays for it every time. Transparency is the disinfectant. Then the hard work of legal and political reform. Fight for stronger campaign finance laws, demand enforceable disclosure for political spending, push for ethics reforms to slam the revolving door. It will be hard work. The people who benefit will fight changes. We need sustained pressure. Fight in state houses and in Washington, D.C. Sustained public organizing matters. Their system relies on our inattention. Knowing the game is the first step to changing the rules. They have money, we have votes, voices, and collective outrage. If we use them, even a billionaire should be afraid of us.